Join me as I recount some of the spookiest encounters that viewers have had at work that still give chills. Work can be a pretty standard place, but what if I told you that many of us have experienced some pretty inexplicable and downright spooky things on the job? I'm not talking about your run-of-the-mill jump scares or creepy sounds. I'm talking about full-on paranormal activity that will send shivers down your spine. You might be thinking, but wait, aren't workplaces supposed to be boring and mundane? And to that I say, not always. In fact, many of us have reported experiencing strange occurrences while on the clock, from unexplained noises to ghostly apparitions. And I'm not just talking about sleepy security guards or overworked office drones. I'm talking about real, honest-to-goodness paranormal activity that will make your skin crawl. Whether it's an old hospital, a creepy abandoned building, or even a seemingly normal office space, there are places where the veil between our world and the next is thin. And when you're in those places, you can't help but wonder, are we really alone? And what's lurking in the shadows just out of sight? From mysterious whispers in the hallway to doors that slam shut on their own, the world of paranormal activity at work is a wild and unpredictable place. And today I want to take you on a journey through some of the spookiest encounters that'll make you think twice about going to work tomorrow. I've got stories from all sorts of workplaces, from hospitals to restaurants, from offices to factories, and let me tell you, some of these stories will make your blood run cold, like the hospital worker who saw a ghostly figure watching her from the shadows, or the office worker who heard disembodied voices whispering in his ear. But one story in particular stands out in my mind, a story that's so bizarre, so inexplicable that it'll make you wonder if we're living in a world of reality or fantasy. It's a story about a haunted factory where workers reported seeing strange shadow figures darting around the machinery. But that's not even the weirdest part. The weirdest part is what happened when they tried to investigate further. As we delve deeper into these stories, you'll start to wonder, what's the explanation for all this paranormal activity? Is it just our imagination running wild? Or is something more sinister at play? And what happens when the workforce is faced with the unknown, the unexplained, and the downright terrifying? One thing's for sure, these stories will leave you sleeping with the lights on tonight. But they'll also leave you wondering what's really going on in those places where we spend so much of our time. Are we truly alone? Or are there forces beyond our understanding lurking just out of sight? So, if you're ready to face the unknown and confront the spine-tingling truth, then join me as we explore the spookiest encounters at work that will give you chills. And don't forget to comment below with your own spooky work experiences. I want to hear from you. And if you're new here, consider subscribing for more haunting tales and paranormal adventures. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Let's be honest, most workplaces are already kind of creepy, even without the ghosts. The flickering fluorescent lights, the echoing silence after everyone's gone home, that weird smell in the break room microwave that no one wants to claim. It's practically begging for a haunting. You walk through these spaces and you can almost feel the history, the energy of all the people who have come and gone. And you know what? The ghosts they deliver, they seem to thrive in these environments, feeding off the residual energy left behind. We're talking the classics here, folks, the kind of stuff that makes your hair stand on end and your heart race. Doors slamming shut on their own, as if an invisible hand is giving them a forceful push. Lights flickering like a disco in hell, casting eerie shadows that dance on the walls. Disembodied whispers that'll make you check your sanity at the door. You hear them when you're alone, and they send chills down your spine. Then there's the phantom footsteps, the ones that seem to follow you down the hallway, always just a step behind. You turn around expecting to see someone, but there's no one there. It's like the building itself is alive, watching you, waiting for the perfect moment to make its presence known. And let's not forget the objects moving on their own, like that stapler that mysteriously went missing and reappeared in the filing cabinet, upside down. Coincidence? I think not. These are the calling cards of the workplace ghosts, my friends, and they're just getting started. They thrive in the mundane, turning the ordinary into the extraordinary. So next time you're working late and you hear a noise that makes your heart skip a beat, just remember, the ghosts never clock out. They're always there, lurking in the shadows, waiting for their next opportunity to make their presence known. And who knows? Maybe they're just trying to remind us that even in the most mundane places, there's always a little bit of magic or mischief waiting to be discovered. Now, I know what you're thinking. Shane, this is all well and good, but show me the evidence. You want proof, right? You want to know that these tales aren't just figments of an overactive imagination or the result of too many late-night horror movies. All right, buckle up, because I've got stories that'll make your hair stand on end. These aren't just any stories. These are accounts from real people who have experienced the unexplainable, the eerie and the downright terrifying in their everyday workplaces. First up, we're heading to a small bookstore in Salem, Massachusetts, a town already steeped in supernatural lore. Here, employees have reported seeing a spectral figure browsing the shelves after hours. Imagine closing up for the night, the store is empty, or so you think, and then you catch a glimpse of someone out of the corner of your eye. Witnesses describe him as an older gentleman in a tweed jacket, always reaching for the same book on the top shelf. It's as if he's searching for something he never quite finds. The detail in their descriptions is chilling, down to the worn patches on his elbows and the way he tilts his head as he reads. But here's the kicker. When they go to help him, he vanishes into thin air. One moment he's there, the next, gone. Employees have tried to interact with him, to ask if he needs help, but he never responds. Instead, he simply fades away, leaving behind an eerie silence. Poof, gone, just like that. It's as if he was never there. And yet the feeling of his presence lingers, making the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. Then there's the story of the night shift security guard at an old hospital in Chicago. Hospitals are already places filled with intense emotions, and this one is no exception. The guard was doing his rounds, the hallways dimly lit and eerily quiet, when he saw something that made his blood run cold. He swore up and down that he saw a ghostly nurse pushing a gurney down the hallway, only to find it empty when he ran to catch up. The nurse was dressed in an old-fashioned uniform, her face pale and expressionless. She moved with a purpose, but when the guard reached the spot where he had seen her, there was nothing there. Just an empty hallway and an abandoned gurney. And let's not forget the poor souls working the graveyard shift at a call centre in Dublin, Ireland. Imagine sitting at your desk, the office quiet except for the hum of computers, when suddenly the phone rings. You pick it up, but instead of a customer, you hear a voice that sends chills down your spine. They reported hearing phantom phone calls, disembodied voices whispering on the other end of the line, asking for help, for someone, anyone. The voices were desperate, pleading, and no matter how many times they tried to trace the calls, they always led to dead ends. Some employees even claimed to recognize the voices of former colleagues who had passed away. These are just a taste, my friends, a mere appetizer of the spooky buffet that awaits us in the world of workplace hauntings. There are countless more stories out there, each one more chilling than the last. So stay tuned, because the night is young, and the tales of the haunted time card are far from over. Chapter 3, The Night Shift Nightmare. All right, folks, hold on to your hats, because this next story is a real doozy. It's one of those tales that will make you think twice about working the night shift, especially in an old, creaky factory. It comes to us from a small town in Pennsylvania, a place where everyone knows everyone and secrets are hard to keep. This particular secret, however, was too terrifying to stay hidden for long. The local factory, a cornerstone of the town's economy, became the epicenter of a chilling haunting that no one could have predicted. It all started innocently enough, with strange noises echoing through the factory halls. At first, it was just the occasional clank or bang, easily dismissed as the building settling or machinery acting up. But soon the occurrences became more frequent and more unsettling. Equipment would turn on and off by itself, lights would flicker without warning, and an eerie feeling of being watched began to permeate the air. The tension among the workers grew with each passing day. They whispered among themselves, sharing stories of strange shadows and cold drafts that seemed to come from nowhere. But then things took a turn for the worse, escalating from mere oddities to outright terror. One fateful night, a group of workers on the night shift experienced something that would haunt them forever. They were gathered around the water cooler, trying to stay awake and keep their spirits up by swapping stories and jokes. The camaraderie was a small comfort in the otherwise eerie factory. As they chatted, the lights suddenly flickered and then died, plunging the entire factory into an oppressive darkness. The laughter and chatter ceased immediately, replaced by a tense silence. The only sound was the distant hum of machinery winding down. Just as they were about to reach for their flashlights, a blood-curdling scream echoed through the factory, sending chills down their spines. It was a scream of pure terror, the kind that makes your blood run cold. Stumbling through the darkness, the workers fumbled for their flashlights, their hands shaking with fear. Their hearts pounded in their chests as they tried to locate the source of the scream, each step feeling like an eternity. When they finally managed to illuminate the area, they were met with a sight that would be etched into their memories forever. There on the cold, hard floor lay one of their co-workers, a burly mechanic named Frank. Frank was known for his strength and bravery, but in that moment he looked like a frightened child. His eyes were wide with terror, his face as white as a sheet. He was trembling uncontrollably, unable to speak at first. When he finally found his voice, he described an encounter that sent shivers down everyone's spine. He claimed that something had pushed him, something he couldn't see. It was a cold, powerful force that seemed to come out of nowhere, knocking him to the ground with an invisible hand. Frank was so shaken by the experience that he refused to return to work after that night. His co-workers couldn't blame him. They had seen the fear in his eyes and felt the chill in the air. The factory, once a place of routine and hard work, had become a place of dread and unease. To this day, the factory remains open, its machines still humming and its workers still clocking in. But the whispers of the haunting persist, a chilling reminder that some things are best left unexplained. The night shift workers, in particular, tread carefully, always aware of the unseen presence that lurks in the shadows, waiting for the next moment to make itself known. Chapter 4, When the Clock Strikes Fear. So, what does it all mean? Why are these workplaces haunted? Are these restless spirits seeking closure, or are they just bored and looking for a little post-mortem mischief? Honestly, I don't have the answers, but one thing's for sure. These stories remind us that there's more to this world than meets the eye. The people who experience these events, they went to work expecting a normal day at the office, not a paranormal encounter. It makes you think, doesn't it, about the history of the buildings we inhabit, the stories held within their walls, the unseen forces that might be lurking just beyond our perception. Maybe, just maybe, we're never truly alone, even in the most mundane of places. Chapter 5. Share your shivers. Alright folks, that's it for tonight's deep dive into the world of workplace hauntings. I hope you enjoyed the stories, but more importantly, I hope they've opened your mind to the possibilities. Now, it's your turn. Have you ever experienced something spooky at work? Did you ever feel a cold spot in the break room or hear your name whispered when no one was around? Let me know in the comments below. I'm dying to hear your stories. And hey, if you're brave enough, maybe we'll even feature some of them in a future video. But for now, keep those lights on, those doors locked, and remember, sometimes the scariest things aren't found in haunted houses, but in the places we least expect. Outro, see you ghosts later. Well, there you have it. Workplace hauntings. Proof that even the daily grind can't escape the clutches of the paranormal. I gotta say, some of those stories were pretty freaky, even for a seasoned ghost enthusiast like myself. Who knew office supplies could be so terrifying, right? But hey, that's the beauty of the unknown, isn't it? It keeps us guessing, keeps us on our toes. And who knows, maybe it's watching us right now, just from the shadows.